Hi, I'm Suneera and I'm a mom of two, a daughter of an immigrant, and an unlikely entrepreneur who went from scaling an idea to $1 billion business. Yes, $1 billion business. Along the way, I learned that less than 2% of female founders ever hit 1 million in revenue, and I became obsessed on a mission to change that. I believe that there is so much gatekeeping in business knowledge, and that we as female entrepreneurs should be learning from other female founders and leaders who have broken the statistics. Since I never went to CEO school, I've had to learn it all the hard way, but you shouldn't have to, because we believe that you deserve to have it all. And honestly, nothing bad happens when women make more money. Grab a seat because class is officially in session. Welcome to CEO School. Welcome to CEO School. I'm your host, Suneera, and today I have such a fun episode and a founder here, Maia Monell, who is the CRO of an application called Nav.it. Now, we're going to be talking about this amazing financial app, but it's really based on psychology and wellness. And we've literally just been having a conversation right before the show, and I'm so excited to bridge something that we talk about so much, which is women and money, because we all know nothing bad happens when women make more money. However, money comes with stress, right? And so Maya and I are having a discussion today about the wellness of money. So you're going to want to stay until the end of the show to have this conversation, because we're going to learn all things about financial and mental wellness and how that goes hand in hand. And that's exactly what Nav.it's mission is. Nav.it is a proprietary analytics platform and an application that assesses employees' financial and behavior factors and places them on a automated financial health coaching program. So the way Maya describes it, it's like Duolingo, but for your finances. So it's an amazing coaching application. But what I'm really intrigued about is really learning from Maya, who is a female co-founder in such a male-dominated industry, how she started this company. We want to definitely talk about venture capital and funding, and really how Nav.it is focused on her tilt, as what she said, is female millennials. And so I'm so excited to welcome Maya to today's show at CEO School. Maya, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited to have this conversation. It's all about money and money mindset, but centered around health and wellness. Since the first time that I've actually seen the two, been talked about, or an application that I've heard of being created for this. And there's so many applications that are centered around our mental health now and our fitness and our sleep. And there's just an endless amount of wellness applications. But I haven't seen this centered around finances and money. And so this is so awesome that you guys have created this. I would love to hear about what is Nav.it, how you got started, and why you created this product.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity again. Really excited to be here. So my co-founder, Erin, and I both come from healthcare,
okay,
which is immediately a differentiator from the majority of founders in the fintech ecosystem. I'm literally just coming back from a big fintech conference last night. So bear with me if I sound a little haggard, but it's really true. Everybody has to navigate their finances, right? The two constants in our life around our health are, our physical performance. We only have one body. We have to treat it really well. And all of us have to manage our finances. We believe really strongly that every single individual should really command their own wealth, kind of like you said. And it's ever more important for it to be an available opportunity, wealth creation to be an available opportunity for women who have, who have been left out of the equation to date. So when Erin and I met in 2019, she's a behavioral scientist running, huge behavioral-based programs out of actually Western Africa. She came back to the States and she had this wild idea that she could apply effectively her one-on-one kind of coaching scenarios and behavioral improvements to an application to make it at scale, make it more affordable, more accessible to other people. I come from fitness technology, where I scaled a B2B fitness app that was really one of the first apps in market. It was B2B2C, still actually exists today, where we were helping to automate and therefore assistant coach strength and conditioning. So we worked with professional athletes all over the world. We went into gyms. We kind of went cross market and down funnel. It was really fun. But again, the premise was, how do you better serve a wide variety of consumers by taking not just quantitative variables like how much they train in the fitness context or how much they make in the financial context, but also how do you use some kind of qualitative metrics, make them a little bit more granular so that you can build out behavior models that really understand who that human being is, right? We always say that finance has historically done a really great job of bringing point products to market that serve an acute need, often forgetting about who those actual consumers are that need those products and how that one product intersects with all of the other situations and experiences across one's life. So in 2020, we launched, the beta app. We wanted to focus on the market that we understood most in a beta environment, which was female millennials, because we are them, and we saw this really really preventing the performance of so many of our friends, right? Financial stress that leads to chronic stress was really inhibiting wealth creation for women all around us. So we wanted to tackle that issue as we started to really dive into those behaviors and starting to correlate how you spend, save, earn, and protect your wealth with your financial stress and confidence. It kind of opened up this Pandora's box of opportunity to not just service millennial women, but also reach a broader audience. And so then the question became, do we bring to market a one product solution like everybody else has done and focus on one kind of key pain point? Or do we start to sell through employers so that they can subsidize the cost of a subscription wellness product that's really similar to like Noom, or again, I love the Duolingo example, or one of these other health or educational apps that have really transformed the way a user thinks about certain areas of their life, right? Like, I'm horrible at language. I grew up in South Florida. My husband's Colombian. I still cannot speak Spanish fluently. And so I was, definitely a laggard on the Duolingo and kind of these app-based language platforms. I finally picked it up like 6 months ago, and I've seriously excelled. I do it every day, and it's completely transformed my relationship and frankly, like, my perception of how capable I am at doing this thing, which is learning another language. And that's effectively what the best fitness health apps have done in the past, right? It showed consumers that even if you've never I'm a big athlete, but even if you never wanted to be an athlete in your life, you hated fitness, blah, 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 you just have to find the right tool that understands your behavior and those hangups in the right way to flip your mindset and your mentality about what it means to do that action. And there's a white space for that in finance, and we feel like we're capturing it. So
I love
that's what we
this.
do.
I'm so intrigued by this. One, just my background in fintech and you're so right about acute solutions. Like, you nail that. And that is the financial market today. It's all about solving like truly the transaction. And it always comes down to like that point of it. And that is finances in general, but the mindset behind it and how you're approaching this, I think it's so genius. I absolutely love this. So I have so many questions for you. And one particularly, so I love that you're focused on, empowering millennial women. What are the things that you're finding, and like, what are the biggest behavioral things and stressors that you're finding that the app is now trying to change the behavior? So you were talking about health and wellness, and like, one of the things that's like just getting movement, 20 minutes of movement in a day can change that behavior. Or like, what are the things that you guys are finding that is attributing stress and finances? And just give me some details on like, how as women are we navigating this, and what could we be doing better? Like, what are the biggest things that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we started seeing this from an early days. It was great that we started with women, because women are also more open to having honest conversations around the inhibitors to their performance output, right? Like, fortunately, I think one of the positive aspects of being a woman, and I clearly think there are many, I love being one, but we are more in tune with our emotional state, and therefore I think more quick to, maybe in a negative effect, judge that feeling, but also try and understand and unpack it. And so what we found really early on was this mounting financial stress was often a result of just frankly financial paralysis,
Okay.
right? Recognizing that like, oh, I've never seen another woman in my life effectively navigate her finances. So surely I'm not going to be good at it either. Like there's a lack of representation in the space. And I think that really trickles down to the end consumer. We're also a product, me speaking as a millennial, and certainly this isn't the case for a younger generation, but my mother didn't have access to credit until she was 28 years old. So she didn't actually have access to generate her own wealth in many ways. As my father did. And so I think that was also kind of an inhibitor. If you think about your own kind of parental lived experiences, all of these factors we know, right? When we talk about mental health, we talk about emotional health, we know that we experience the world from a lens that's been informed by past experiences, past traumas, whatever that looks like. And so what we've really been unpacking, which surprised us early on, is like, what are the root causes of that financial stress? And frankly, how easy is it to shift and mitigate and reduce that financial stress when you boost your confidence? And confidence is a really, I think, fickle thing, because it's actually, for finances, it's actually a really easy, um, like pain point to solve for. It's maybe harder when we're talking about physical confidence or like emotional confidence or certain aspects of maybe other aspects of our health. But financial confidence, you can see shift really quickly because there's such a baseline. You can start to see that when you come into the app and we say in 3 minutes a day we'll improve your financial health. So you take a quiz, you do an action. We have these transaction swipes that we love to talk about. So instead of looking at your like monthly balance, you see your last 24 to 48 hours of transaction history, and you swipe left if you don't like it, right if it made you feel good, or up
Yeah.
if it's neutral, like a utility. So again, trying to break down the like finances, they don't need to be scary. They also don't need to be mundane. They don't need to be all of these conflicting points that like result in
I
that
mean, I want to date my
paralysis.
finances and swipe left and right on my
Right.
transactions. It's
Right. Like it's
right
like a
up our
bumble stick.
alley for this audience.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you just unpack all these silly stereotypes around what it means and who can manage money effectively? And like, once you start to do that, I mean, we see people that go through the automated coaching program, and then we also have in-app human coaches who literally start to change their mindset and reduce their stress in a week. Like, yes, we want to see longer time horizons, and we see that we can reduce financial stress on average by 50% month over month, and a 6-month period of time. But I think it's also really cool to just see like in 1 week, users that go through pilots, and we have a continuous learning program that say, no, I actually like think I can do this after 1 week on Nav.it. Like that's a huge, huge indicator of, I think, future success, right? And then it just gets down to the nitty gritty of like, this is why you need a budget. This is why a budget isn't scary. This is why you need to set up a savings account. You can contribute to a savings account whilst you pay down your high interest credit card debt, because we're going to help you make sure that you have that right strategy in place for you, not some templated approach. I think coaching, again, back to what we see in fitness, right? Coaching is the key to unlocking better outcomes
Absolutely.
for your health. And so we just need to apply that same personalized coaching environment to financial management.
I think that applies to anything in our life, right? It's accountability, right? At the end of the day, when
Totally.
you have accountability, and that's what a coach is. It's an
Yeah.
accountability partner. You perform
Yeah.
better. That is why,
Yeah.
I mean, we have programs for women in business. And when you talk about confidence, that is the number one, like our big goal here at CO School is to drive 100% of women to build $1 million businesses. Less than 2% of female founders ever break $1 million in revenue. And if I were going to attribute what is like the cause of that, number one, it's the confidence. Like it's just the confidence to show up and say, I can actually do this, and set a goal that's scary and that's big, and to drive to that. But having that accountability component is what's going to drive it. So I 100% agree with that. My question for you is like, when you're talking about the stress levels or the stressors that you see on a behavior side, what is causing that? Like, is it not having money? Is it having too much debt? Like, what are the biggest factors of financial stress, and how is Nav.it solving that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly a couple of components, but what we do see is that it's unrelated to household income.
Okay.
So whether or not you're making $35,000 a year or you're making $250,000 a year, we all have financial stress.
Yes.
It's a matter of how mounting it is. Often, financial stress can be kind of acutely found around key life experiences.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you have any friends that are having children for the first time, right? Like you start to see this like shift, I think, around maybe month 8 of of her pregnancy, that shows like, oh, she's starting to really stress out about like the cost of living moving forward. But that's just one example. You can apply that to a change of jobs. You can apply that to a change of a location, right? You can apply that to a change of economic circumstance that really feels mounting and burdensome. But what we again see is that like the biggest trigger to acute financial stress is a lack of confidence. Often confidence comes because people don't feel like they've ever managed their money, or lack of confidence comes because people don't think that they've ever managed their money well enough to actually overcome an obstacle. So a really clear example of this is high interest debt, right? Or high interest credit card debt. It's a pretty compounding effect on your life when you choose to only pay a minimum balance off your credit card every single month, right? It's very hard to change and auto correct. Now, you can absolutely do it. And that's one of the key experiences that we're tackling in the app to make somebody more credit worthy. However, I think people really internalize the also usually the early decisions that were made in our early career or early adult life that we feel like we have not overcome. But the minute you start to overcome financial obstacles and you start to see even incremental wins, like literally in the week win of like, oh, I kept on track with my budget this week. Like, I checked in on my financial stress every week. Like the minute you start to see these incremental changes in your habits and behaviors, you start to feel a boost in confidence, which reduces your stress because life is tough. Life is hard. Like we all go through ups and downs and significant hurdles, right? But we have less stress when we recognize that even when we hit a barrier or a hurdle, we do have the confidence in overcoming it because we've done it before. And I think that that's really key. You see this in weight loss, you see this in training performance, you see this in mental health, you see this in emotional health, you see this in nutritional health, you see this across all these other kind of pain points of your health system. But what you don't really focus in on is the financial component, and that's really what we're trying to address.
I think this is so needed. I love this. I'm like really excited to
Yeah,
download it and like go check it out because
thank
I
you.
do believe in like the science of behavior and how you can change its habits, right? It's literally how you view things. It's even the
Yeah,
perception of it. And money is stressful. It's a beautiful thing, but it is stressful. I mean, more money, more problems, right? That should probably
totally.
be the title of this episode.
Yeah,
And you're right. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank, you still have stress around finances. I'm
yeah,
very successful. I've exited my company. I've sold my company twice over and have a
yeah,
very comfortable lifestyle, yet still we have to have money dates. Like my husband and I have to sit and still discuss our
uh,
finances and just
yeah,
managing wealth and making
mhm,
sure that like like there is still so much stress around finances. And the thing that I
yeah,
find about women and after just serving a community of this amazing about this community that we have of amazing female entrepreneurs, the thing I find about money for women is the lack of education around it. Like I believe that like
yeah,
we've literally been left out of the conversation from such a young age about finances. Like why don't we teach kids in school, for boys and girls, how to manage money and just making it part
yeah,
of our like day-to-day, like this is going to be our life currency, whether it looks like Bitcoin one day or it looks like something else
yeah,
another. Like,
yeah,
you know, eh, this is financial management is such an important piece. And I find that women we're left out of the conversation so early on. And then,
yeah,
I've seen it, firsthand. And, you had mentioned it as well of like, just like the women in my life have never managed their own money. Like when my father passed away, my mother could not tell you where anything was at all.
yes,
And just like the full dependency on like the gender roles in like in a partnership of like who does what and like it there's so much that we're left out of, but I find that the thing that is really lacking is that education component. And we're brilliant, we're smart, we're intuitive. Like once we know the playbook, we can execute the playbook, but we just haven't been given that playbook. And so I want to hear a little bit about what your thoughts are around the education component of it. There's the behavior component of it. Do you guys focus on the education component of it? What are you finding in terms of that?
Yeah, hugely so. It's a great question. And back to the why finances aren't taught in schools, we have a partnership with Montana State and a couple of researchers really all across the country to unpack that. And there's a really brilliant researcher out of Montana State, Carly Urban, who identified that the reason why only 4% of public high schools have a personal financial management course is because they can't find the educators who feel confident themselves enough
Oh,
to teach the course.
wow.
Yeah. So we have a long way to go in this country, and I think many other markets as well. So we do feel like it is part of our responsibility to introduce education. Unfortunately, by and large, our industry has I think rightly so found that financial education alone does not work. So when you look at the workforce, 40% of the workforce doesn't know about the financial benefits their employer offers to them, because they don't know, they can't form the question to then seek out the resource, right? Like they don't know what they don't know. And it's a really big problem, which is also why we've really been focusing in on the workforce. But to that point, I think that education can be unlocked and can be a viable functionality of, a comprehensive fintech when you pair it with action, right? It's not enough to send a Dave Ramsey PDF to your 10,000 workers.
Yeah.
And Dave, like, call me later. I really don't like the Dave Ramsey program. But he and many others, and the big guys do it too, right? Like the big brokers and RIAs do it too, where they're like, oh, don't worry, Costco employer, we offer financial literacy programs for your workforce. So, they're getting paid a percentage of account assets under management, and then they just tack on this PDF or the 6-week program or workshop or whatever. They do the thing, and then employees can't retain that information because it might feel acutely needed at that point in time. But what are you supposed to do with that? You can't open a savings account the minute you read the PDF because you're at work doing something else, or you can't really
And it's not a one and done thing, right? It's not like
you can't actualize the content.
Yes.
Right. So we'd rather, again, do it in bite-sized pieces, kind of like a language learning platform, where it's like you're teaching them through quizzes and action and intention and mindset and all of these different components, and then you're feeding the data back to them, right? I think that that's really important as well, because again, I could read a memo every single day, but if somebody's not asking me about the thing that I learned in the memo, or I'm not seeing that I read it every single day for 90 days, or I moved my I started spending 10% less because I was doing that educational component. Like if I don't have that reinforcement, then I'm far less likely to actually change the habit and improve the behavior long term. Again, we see this with fitness all the time. You see it with nutrition, right? Like it's really hard to get on a nutritional plan, but it's really easy to stay on it once you've lost your first 10 pounds, or you've gained your first 10 pounds, or whatever your nutritional goal is. You need that positive reinforcement. And ironically, you can actually see positive reinforcement far more quickly, like positive financial outcome far more quickly, because it's the difference between spending, again, within your budget in a certain category for the week or not.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing is as quick as a result of positive behavior change in our healthcare life than that. So I've never understood the disconnect, but that's really what we're starting to focus on.
I love it. And I love that you consider yourself a healthcare, like it's a wellness company. So how do you measure success? Like, so, as a, co-founder and like the chief revenue officer, like how do you measure success from a wellness standpoint, not just from like a financial metric standpoint?
Yeah, so we've built out the company a little bit differently in that we don't have like siloed divisions of product and engineering and marketing and sales and kind of, everybody living in their own ecosystem of support. Engineering and product are obviously kind of, more still early stage, so they work very closely together. But our growth team is actually a huge representation of the product team, because we're still focused on that research and development, right? Like our biggest areas for opportunity and the biggest metrics that we're tracking are all around the key determinants of financial health and quality of life. So and I have to apologize. I have a dog here who's like snoring right under my desk.
We
So
can't
if
hear
you can
him,
hear him,
and I
I'm
wish
so
I could
sorry.
see him. I just got a,
Oh my God,
I
she's
have a
very cute.
a puppy. He's 5 months old, and he's like 80 pounds now. Like we have a golden retriever puppy that we got in January, and he
Oh my
is
God.
so cute, but so obnoxious. Like he's like a giant
It's the
baby,
worst
and is like not
time.
like
Yeah.
literally tearing my house apart. But he's
Yeah, I
cute.
have a Labrador. I don't. She's 3 now, but I remember that time period. Anyway, so in terms of our key metrics, we're focused on again the quality of life indicators. So like, are we actually improving your health
Okay.
outcomes? Right? Are you sleeping better? Are you less financially stressed? Do you feel like you're more motivated to go to work and to show up for your family and to show up for your friends? Like, how is your literal mindset around these key experiences that we all have in our lives being affected by the way in which you manage your money? So then on the other side of that, are we helping you save more? Are we helping you improve your credit score? Are we helping you pay down high interest debt? Are we helping you move into wealth generating opportunities? Like, these are very traditional, and this, like these are the core metrics to any good financial health platform. And then how do we marry that with good financial health means better long-term outcome, like health outcome and longevity.
Speaking of wealth generation, so something that I do find, about the financial products and markets, it's savings, 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 budget, 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 which is one component of our financial well-being, which is important. But we can only cut so many costs. And in my
Yeah.
viewpoint, it's about making more money as well, right? And so the way to actually have financial freedom is to earn more. And so
Yeah.
earning more is a big component. And, obviously, as I mentioned, like our tagline here is nothing about happens when women make more money. And that's something that from a job creation standpoint to a business standpoint, like every woman needs to know her worth and needs to ask for her worth and
Yeah.
build that dream life and business. How have you thought about wealth generation within, like, what does Nav.it do for wealth generation? And like, what is like the psychology behind that? I'd like love to get like into
Yeah.
the behavioral part of that as well.
Yeah, it's a great question as well. So there are 4 components, right, to your financial life. It's the way you save, spend, earn, and protect wealth. The way you save is just kind of a launch pad, right? Because we all know that it is important to have some level of liquid cash set aside for an unexpected, so that you don't have to, say, use your credit card to float a high expense that you can't pay off, in full at the end of the month,
Yeah.
so that you don't spiral into, say, high interest credit card debt. So you think about savings and protection, I almost think about it in the same way. And then that allows you to think more clearly and level headedly around, okay, I'm baseline protected. Now, how am I going to grow my wealth? And that includes how are you going to grow your savings, passively, right? We have money market accounts that are set just for this. High yield savings accounts are a really effective way to earn more from the really great behavior you've set out for yourself to protect yourself and your family from an emergency. And I think, earning potential is a huge component too. We now live in a world where we can unlock access to earning potential just through, our screens every single day. So one of the key areas that we do encourage, or we call our customers navigators, we do encourage navigators if they are looking to make a move to a more expensive city, or they are looking to upgrade their expense
Lifestyle, yeah.
ratio, yeah, and their lifestyle, then maybe take on a side hustle. This is so effective, especially in your early 20s when you're like, you remember that time where like you
You
have
had all the time in the
your
world.
primary job. Yeah, you have all the time in the world. You have your primary job, and you're also just like a sponge for information. So why wouldn't you take on a side hustle or a side gig? Like there are all these amazing platforms for the gig economy now. It's a really effective way, especially if you can't concretely see how you can eke out savings from your base salary. Go ahead and find a side hustle that helps you establish that savings. And then once you've, set that percentage aside, whatever, we can talk about that offline, or you can go tap into a Nav.it coach to help with that recommendation. Then you can continue on the side hustle and start to invest in, I would say traditional safer asset classes. I'm not going to tell you to like go into, a crowdfunding rate tomorrow if you have like no baseline exposure into public equities funds, right? But I do think it's really critical. And then that leads to the point of investing is the sexiest topic in financial services, which means that it can be the most accessible to a newcomer to financial services. It can also then, that for that same reason, be the most risky. I mean, we see this with RAs like Robinhood all the time, right? Where I wouldn't necessarily recommend stock picking. If you're not a day trader that grew up in that way, then
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that choice. But it is really critical. So again, this is where I think literacy paired with action is really key. The first thing that you can do is frankly and hopefully find a career and an employer that has a 401k program, right, or a pension program, no matter where depending on where you are. But use the tools and the benefits packages at your disposal to start to earn more while at your existing job. I think that that's also really, really key. I mean, we now have a couple of key pieces of legislation like Secure 2.0 that's going to make it that much more accessible for you as a worker and a member of the workforce to find employers that have compelling retirement packages. And that's, it's so unsexy to talk about retirement at 22, but at the same time, it's how you're going to be set up for
It
success.
is so sexy to talk about retirement. I just retired January 10th, by the way.
I
And at
mean,
35
congrats.
years old, and I don't think I'm not fully retired, but I can be, and I'm very
Yeah.
happy about it. It took me 10 years, and I did it in my 20s, which people ask, like, how did you build a $1 billion company? It's like, because I had all the time in the world, like before I had kids. Like
Yeah, you had
that
so much time.
so
Yeah.
much time. Now I
Yeah.
have 2 kids under 6, and it's been really hard the last several years. I was like, I can't do it anymore. Maya, before we close this episode, I got a couple more questions. We've got a lot of amazing entrepreneurs in the room who have dreams of building an app, a tech platform. How did you secure the funding? Like, what were the initial early days? Like, what advice do you have to the early founder in you that
Mhm.
didn't have the go-to-market figured out, that you didn't have the fancy people and tools? And, we're having this discussion today, but it was once on paper. So can you take me back to when it was on paper, and what
Yeah.
advice do you have for the women that have an idea for a product but are struggling to figure out funding or getting it to market? I'm sure they'd love to hear your advice.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and I know this is an annoying answer, but like it depends on your market and the product that you foresee building out, right? Like not every opportunity is venture backable. I also run a venture fund in my not so spare time, so I understand the other side of the table, and that it's really hard, especially if you're an impact driven founder, to build out a solution set and then learn that you can't just unlock 10 millions of capital tomorrow. Like you have to build a revenue driving business, right? But I think it's really important to understand what your access is to capital and sustainable raising looks like, because it doesn't have to lead to venture, and it's a difficult time right now in venture. That said, if you are building out a high growth tech platform, you are probably leading yourself into venture capital. If you're in the early stages, we bootstrapped. We were very grateful to be able to have done so. We kept our day jobs for a while. We took on consultancy gigs. I mean, Erin still works for a couple of really large funders every once in a while to do these insane behavior-based projects all over the world, because because it feeds their soul. And I think it feeds their creativity. And I also think that from a founder identity perspective, that's really important too. So the way in which I think you can effectively do that, and the world is changing than when we started, right? Like we still needed kind of a CTO as soon as possible to build the app. Like there are so many low code, no code platforms and resources that you can now use as a founder to be able to more affordably bootstrap your business to at least prove out your hypothesis with some segment of users, right? You need, I think, really early data now more than ever because there are no more excuses. Like it just a dev team to bring something low code, no code to beta is not as expensive as it once was for all of us. So I really think it's important. And frankly, also from a funder perspective, and I know I come from a very privileged place to say this, but it shows you have stake in the game when you can bootstrap and you can be scrappy with your finances. You're not just like one of those, I love them, but my white male friends who just walk into Silicon Valley and like just get $50 million with a PowerPoint. That's not a sustainable way to scale a business.
And it doesn't happen that way anymore either.
No, and also that's, if you're not coming from a place of wealth in the first place, that's also not how you're going to build intergenerational wealth because you're going to be so diluted by the end of the day. You're not actually going to retain a meaningful amount of ownership to do whatever you want at 35 once you sell the business. So I think it's really important. I love to talk to founders about this. I'm happy, like I'm sure you'll send my contact in the show notes. I think it's really important. It's a really important thing to get right. And it's, again, it's now easier than ever to, kind of do it yourself and get scrappy about it.
I love it. That is the best advice. It's exactly what I would have said you have to bring it to market from like a viable way. And it is so much easier. It's not easier. It's not easy, but it is the barriers to entry are a lot lower than they used to be. And so that's really, really great advice. Maia, this has been such a fun conversation. Like it's like literally I have like a notes full of like more questions to ask, but we're out of time now. Congratulations on building this app. I'm super geeking out because this is like an industry that I'm really excited about. It's supporting women, which is like all I want to support. And it's really about changing the world, in my opinion. And I think this is just absolutely genius. I love that there are 2 women at the helm of this. Keep on going. We are here to support you. So tell us, how do we support you as a CEO School community? Where do we get the app? How do we tell our friends? Where do we find you? Because we want to blow it up.
I so appreciate it. This has been such a fun conversation and like truly meaningfully, if I can be supportive to anybody out there listening and certainly to yourself, do let me know. But in terms of where you can find us, I mean, you can find us on the App Store, Nav.it. You just search for it in your preferred app store and you can find the app. And we are tilting toward the employee benefit model because it's really impactful for a mass workforce to get access to all of the cool functions and features in the app. So if you are a employer and you're looking to improve the financial health of your workforce, I'm happy to help prove out that ROI for you and would love to have a conversation. So you can also reach me over email at Maia, MAIA, at Nav.it, Nav.it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maia, for your knowledge today. Congratulations on all your success and how you're paying it forward. It's so, so exciting. I hope to see you at a fintech conference soon. I'm sure we'll be connecting, but thank you so much for everyone listening today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Leave us a review. This is how we grow. And please screenshot this episode, tag us, tag Maia, tag Suneera. We'll be linking all of the handles in the show notes, and tag Nav.it and share like the biggest takeaways that you have from today's show. I definitely enjoyed the conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And I'll see you next week at CEO School. Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you loved it, leave us a review. We are so proud to bring you authentic conversations, game changer expert guests, and valuable content on and offline. The best compliment you can give us is by screenshotting today's show and tagging us on Instagram at CEO School and at Suneera Madani. We are obsessed with swag, so don't be surprised if we want to send you some. Thanks for tuning into class today, and remember, nothing bad happens when women make more money.